Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Ron.
And our guests we have with us, please introduce yourselves, everyone.
I'm Monique Nicole.
I'm Sonia Mooring-Smith.
I'm Hassan Grimes.
All right. And so today we are here to talk about P-Valley. I have been missing out on the good conversation. I mean, this show has had people, panties in a bunch. So I watched y'all while I was out, and great conversation. I wish I could have been here for it, but we are back. And this week we are on episode 6 of season 2, and it was titled Savage. So if you guys hang tight, we'll get started. Everyone, we are back, and like I said, we're talking P-Valley. This episode, everything keeps picking up. I think this storyline that we're getting this week is some more background into some of the other characters that were introduced this season. I think last time we got to see more to Mississippi and her situation, and now this week it looks like we're getting to see more into Teak and his situation, which I was really surprised by some of what happened this week. I don't know about y'all. I figured Teak would be going. They always drop little hints when the barber was doing his haircut, and he's like, "Oh, you casket sharp," and I was like,
Yep.
It's over for him. So, I don't know. Did you guys see that coming? I figured he would go out, but I didn't think it would be self-inflicted.
I don't know. He was like, today is a big day. And I was like, what's going to happen today? Like, what's happening today that it's such a big day? So that was a clue right there, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
I if I can jump in, I think I saw it coming. I saw it coming because of how he was trying to separate himself from Lil Murda all day. Because I think he really did not want to have, really seem the love of his life. I mean, because it was a connection there. See him in that much despair, and he knew what he was planning, and he didn't want Lil Murda to experience that. He wanted it to be a clean break, so to speak. So I saw it coming.
I do have a question for y'all though on that line though. Go ahead, Ron. I'm gonna ask it after you finish.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily. Well, I thought because of his neurosis, the problems he was having dealing with coming out of prison, and he seemed to have a rough time on it. I thought it would happen at some point, but when Lil Murda bought him the automobile and threw him the keys, I'm thinking, okay, this might be a good thing for him, to bring him more centered and to let him know that people out there really care for him, because to me that's largely what he was dealing with, just being alone. So I was a little surprised that he would off himself like that in his brand new car, with Murda by his side.
Yeah, I mean, when I look back, there were some breadcrumbs, but I was more so anticipating him getting into it with somebody just because how high tempered he was. And at the gas station, I was actually getting nervous because we saw how he popped off at the guy. There was something, that scene felt like something could happen, but it was a happy moment. So, when he did what he did to himself, I didn't really see it coming. Like, I understood it. It made sense, but that's not the thing that I didn't know it was going to happen. I wasn't 100% sure it was going to go there. So I was a little taken.
I was wondering what made him.
I was surprised.
I was wondering what made him snap at that moment or choose that moment. I thought he might have overheard the conversation, the ultimatum he got in regards to leaving him home. I wonder like what happened made him choose that moment. It was a good moment. I thought another scene was about to happen. I was about to say, oh my goodness. But, he told at that time, this is it, and I thought Murda was going to actually talk him out of it because, he was making sense. Like we got a lot of money to, we got kids to have. Like he gave him all these options, like, don't do this. So I thought he thought about it for a moment, like, all right, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Even receiving help, coming out of that environment, I guess making that transition could be very tough, specifically for someone. And then him being hiding his identity, who he really is, was probably tough as well, too. And seeing Murda. And I think Uncle Clifford, too, the letter kind of like, the postcards kind of, rubbed him the wrong way as well.
I was going to say, I feel like Lil Murda kind of sensed that was the space that he was in. That's why he would never let Teak drop him off. Teak kept just saying, where can I take you? Where can I take you? And Murda was like, nah, I'm staying with you. So he knew that he wasn't in the right headspace right there. And then, you can see that he was pretty much saying goodbye. Teak was, because he went back to his old home, even when Murda and Teak were on the date, and he brought up Clifford, he pretty much knew that it was a wrap between them two. That was a goodbye. And he kept saying to Murda over and over again, like, you gonna be this, you're gonna be that. So he was telling him how he was gonna be and letting them know that this is how you're gonna be without me. Like that's when, Murda was like, well, we can do this. No, you the one, you're gonna be like this. This is what's gonna happen for you. So he was, like Sonya said, he was withdrawing.
Yes. And my question was along those lines though, because I was wondering, with what happened, because I was like, dang, it's kind of tough when you got, your old flame and you sitting up here telling them how great this new person you're interested in is. And so I was like, well, I wonder if that had any influence in his decision to do what he did, because Teak was definitely like feeling him. And then you could tell when they were having the conversation about their, jailhouse rendezvous and things like that. Teak seemed like he really was invested in that situation. He remembered old raps that Murda had done when he was 17 or something like that. So it's like Teak was way more invested in it than I think Murda was. And the fact that Murda was so kind of nonchalantly talking about how much he liked Clifford, I was like, I wonder if
I won't say he was more invested. I think it's the simple case of Murda got out of jail first. So like Teak said, you had to move on. And he was like, I'm not mad at you because you got to move. Teak stayed in jail and sadly he had a longer bid than Murda. So I just think it's one of those things where he had to move on, but that love is still, we see it. That chemistry is still there. They got love for each other. I have a gripe with the writing a little bit because I felt like what they portrayed in Big Teak was more so, PTSD, some anger issues, things like that. Definitely emotional issues, but it wasn't until this episode that I felt like the hopelessness. Like, we got a tidbit of it when he was giving his monologue about Black men and police. And I got that because it was like a racial thing, a racial undertone behind that. But as far as mental health and that feeling of just like hopelessness, I just felt like they just dropped it in our lap this episode. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't know he was suicidal. You know what I mean?
Until he seemed like on the edge to me the whole time. He felt like any minute he would go off and stuff. So I felt like he had mental health.
I felt that, but I didn't feel it on a suicidal. I took it. I felt he was on the edge emotionally, meaning he was extremely triggered. He just got out of jail. He's got PTSD. He's entering this new world. Like all those emotions are still valid and real, and can easily send someone off the edge. But I still didn't equate him ending his life with that. I still had in my mind, he's going to fight old dude and, he's going to get into it with somebody. And that's how he ends up dead or back in jail. That's how I saw it. I did not see him ending his life until this episode, but that could just
maybe he didn't feel like he fit anymore because he's been gone and he sees how much life has changed, because Murda was showing him how to do stuff. Like he was really like, I don't think he felt like he fit in this world. And I'll defer to Ron. I see Ron trying to jump in.
I think what got me when T kept talking about how the world has moved on, and basically saying the world has moved on without me, and he just didn't see himself in the new world according to what he knew, what he once knew. So I think that, but again, like you said, Monique, more than ever, I think it was the PTSD, the other extenuating problems that he had mentally, and not being able to get help caused his early demise.
Right.
And I was also going to add, like, I thought that the color that they added to his story with his mom, how abusive she was, and the fact that I think he had like some survivor's remorse because he mentioned that some of his other siblings didn't make it. And so I think that's a big part of why he acts the way he does. And when he even seen himself as a child, like hiding out in the closet, and he was saying, like, I feel like I shouldn't have made it this far. Like I think there was definitely survivor's remorse there. And so like that factors into a lot of this. I think it's a compilation of things going on with Teak that led to this situation. And I'm glad that they kind of brought it out. I do agree with Monique, though. It was kind of sudden. Like it did kind of like all get sprung on us in this episode, because I didn't see him being suicidal prior to this. I just knew he was kind of like off the hinges and always on edge. But, just thinking about Murda and how he deals with the aftermath of this, because we seen who he ran to. First person he went crying to was Uncle Clifford. So I wonder how this affects their relationship going forward, and if Lil Murda has any feelings of guilt behind what happened. I don't know.
Can I add something there?
Mm-hmm.
I think that Teak, once he realized that Lil Murda was going to be okay, because you think about it, he was fiercely protective of him, fiercely protective. And he also had this profound pride in him. And I think he just felt like his demons, because he talked about the devil, that his demons were so great that he knew that he needed to make sure that none of that got with Lil Murda, because it was going to impede whatever success that he had. And I'm thinking about the conversation that they had when they were, in the restaurant on their date, and they were sitting there. It was a very mature conversation. I think, maybe some of us have had those conversations with exes, where you talk about how you're able to move on, and you talk about maybe the person that you are going to be with, or you with. That's a mature conversation. And I believe that Teak again felt like, well, you know what? My boy gonna be all right. He's going to be all right. So, I wasn't that surprised that that he did what he did. I was hoping that Lil Murda would be able to talk him out of it. But at that time, I think that suicide ideation was so real, it was going to happen. And then for Lil Murda to be there with him in that moment and say, I'm not going nowhere. That was a whole nother chilling moment.
It's quite traumatizing.
But it also talked about their bond that they had.
I got a point to make on that, and something else, and I think it does involve the writing too, Monique, which you mentioned, because when Teak got out of the car to go into the house, and then Lil Murda opened up the glove compartment and saw the gun. And I think, as one of you said earlier, he knew from the beginning of the day, and that's why he wanted to do a ride along, is because he just didn't trust what Teak might do. And so my point would be is, why didn't he take the gun and remove the gun from the car, knowing
at that point he probably didn't know.
Well,
that's what I was going to say.
Well, wait a minute now. Remember, we mentioned that when he gave the car to Teak, he knew that he was going to be with Teak.
He was in a bad headspace, right?
That he was, as you said, Tiffany, earlier, he was in a bad headspace. And I'm just simply saying, if had it been more well thought out for Lil Murda to see the gun in the car, knowing that he didn't take it in the house.
He thought he was going to the trap house to pick up some weed, though. Exactly. And that's why he brought it in there like, man, you went in there without your gun. Yeah. Like, at that point, I don't think he thought
he didn't
of it until what's it called said, this is not a trap house. This used to be my house.
Right.
And then I think, maybe.
Right. But I wouldn't give a 6-year-old a gun at any point in time. And what I mean by 6-year-old, when you're in that mindset, that if you believe that someone is going to commit suicide or harm themselves, you don't allow that type of weaponry to be around them because you knew that something might kick off. So if you knew that and you saw the gun, I understand where he was and what you thought, but it would have been what I would have done was taken the gun inside to be his backup in case something went down. I wouldn't have given him the gun.
But my thought is, I don't think Murda thought that he was going to do that. It's two different things. We've all had a friend, or even ourselves have had a depressed moment, been sad. Just because someone's down and out in their mind, that doesn't always equate to suicide. So I really think Lil Murda did not think he was going to do that. I think he thought, because what he said a line to him, he was like, no, I know how you are. You're going to be sitting here pondering. You're going to be in your thoughts, in your head. You're going to be thinking all this stuff. Let me kick it with you just to keep you positive. But I don't think he was like, oh, he could actually take himself out.
Right.
I think that was a shock to Murda, because when he put the gun to his head, Murda was like, he was caught off guard.
He was freaking out.
He was really caught off guard. He was like, whoa, I don't think he predicted it happening at all.
Then I thought as well, both sides, thinking. I thought actually he was going to take the bullets out.
Yeah.
So when Murda, when he did try, Murda, okay, he's not going to do it because I took the bullets out. And then if he would try, wow, I'm never going to leave him alone again, because now I know what he's really capable of. Because he had a certain calmness about him when he first did it. It was probably shock. But then also, when he's seen it, I'm like, he's thinking like, why does he have his gun here? And he went in there with him. But then again, when he seen that he was okay, he was fine, still take the clip out and then put it back in. But you with him, you got the clip. Then when he grabbed the gun and then put it to his head, I was like, okay, he must have took the clip out because he was calm at first. But I guess that was to keep him calm too as well, so he wouldn't react right away. But that's going to be traumatic. It's going to be a very traumatic experience for him going forward now, even moving forward with Uncle Clifford now, even though he was there for him to support him and comfort him during this time. But that's going to weigh heavy on him for the rest of his life too as well.
Yes, I agree. And the only other comment I was going to add too, because his song just blew up, and we seen that Wody had called saying that Tina was offering him to come down and join the tour and perform with her. And so I was like, okay, well, this must be where Meg Thee Stallion's role coming, because we know she's supposed to be featured this season. So I think that Murda's going to try to push on as best as he can, because he's really on the up and up, and he's on the verge of blowing. So he's going to have to suppress whatever's going on personally so that he can advance professionally. And
that's what the person had with Teak is like there was so much to be hopeful for. I feel like in this episode, like the car, the song on the radio, him going on tour. It makes me really. I just didn't see that coming. I just didn't see it coming. It's really sad, and I hate that he did it.
It might open up.
I know he all day trying to not do it in front of him, but I hate that it ultimately happened in front of Murda, because that's going to traumatize him for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Also, but it might trigger something to him and him as well, because he might, he might write a love song about him or this experience in his music. Writers like I write film, I write music. When certain situations happen in life, this is good for him to voice it through his music, right? And he might make a song, and Uncle Clifford will be like, "Is that for me or is that for him?" You know what I mean? And it might send another twist, but I think that's going to open him up as well as an artist as well, because he's going to make a song about love next, I think.
Good point. Yeah.
One thing that I appreciated at the end when Murda came to Uncle Clifford's house and he said, "I'm not okay. I'm not okay." And I thought that was cool because, a lot of times, society tells us, especially men, Black men, that is not okay to say, that I'm not okay. And the fact that he said it and pretty much asked for help and allowed himself to be vulnerable, that I was really moved by that moment.
Yeah,
I agree.
I was gonna say the only thing I worry about though is that grandmother. We know she got COVID,
I think she got COVID. I think
you took-
she
Up in there around grandmother coughing,
You
no
took
mask
the
on,
words-
nothing. And
you
I'm like,
took-
and Murda just walk, you walking that right into his environment. I hope he don't get sick before the rest of the tour can get going.
Well, you
Grandma's
took the words
wicked.
right out of my mouth because I was going to say that when Lil Murda entered the home. Well, first of all, Uncle Clifford was around, grandma and
Grandma.
not wearing gloves or anything
Or
like
mask.
that, or mask, so we can assume that he has it. And of course, he met Lil Murda at the door. So, my gracious, Lil Murda might have a problem bigger than what we are trying to, assume here, because we don't know how COVID might affect him.
Yeah, it's
Or
true.
is it a problem, or is it a bonus for them two? Because now they can quarantine together.
Oh, see.
That's another way of thinking. That's a whole nother way of thinking. But
Quarantine.
I'm worried about grandma though, because grandma looked like she
grandma
diabetic too and stuff. And so will
That
grandma
underlying
survive the COVID?
Yeah, that's that underlying stuff that the older generation have to deal with COVID might come into play now. I'm hoping not, because I love grandma. I hope nothing happens to her.
Right.
But this gives an opportunity to show how the older generation was affected, those with underlying medical conditions as well.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
somebody
I think
else.
grandma's out of here.
What's that?
I said, sorry, I think grandma's gonna be out of here,
Oh
unfortunately.
no! Don't say that.
yeah, I think
I
she's
love
gone.
grandma. I love her comic relief because she always got the good jokes right on time.
Yeah.
So I hope she can pull through.
No, it looked like she was really suffering with the sweats and the cough. The cough was the thing I worried most about because it was very progressive, and you can tell that whatever's going on is from her lungs.
And
Somebody need to check on Lori.
Yeah,
I need to check
well,
on the
that
health
Oh, wait.
inspector.
Yeah, the
Check
health
on Lori.
That is true.
that might be good for them, because if she go, then they, it was the fever for me that scared me about grandma, because that can cause her to go.
For me too, the
Yeah,
fever.
that's the fever. That's scary.
At 102, we can break it down, hopefully with aspirin or ibuprofen. And I think Uncle Charlie gave her some ibuprofen. I remember
Clifford.
Uncle Clifford. Did I
But
say
it's more so the fever and the cough, because the cough is
Forgive me. You know what?
Ron
Uncle
was
Charlie's
listening
been
to
on my
Charlie
mind
Wilson,
for the
man.
last 2 weeks. I don't know what it is. I love his music. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, but yeah, Uncle Clifford gave her something. Hopefully that'll break down the fever at 102, because that's not bad. But at 103 and 4 for that age, or as we get older adults, that's the danger point. So
and not just that, her lungs, because all that coughing she's doing. And then remember, in the beginning of COVID, it was affecting a lot of people's lungs and stuff. And that's what took a lot of people out, especially the elderly. So
that's why I think she might be affected, because it was still, it's back then when everyone was really affected by it. So unfortunately, this might be the demise of grandma because of that, her being elderly, her having underlying issues like this. I'm hoping not, but like I said, the quarantining together, it's going to build, I think it's going to build them to a closer bond, and he could be there to support her with grandma,
That's true.
Except that it doesn't seem as though they understand how COVID spreads or how it affects you, because you would think that, and I think Uncle Clifford realized that there was something more going on than a cold. And once he realized that, you would think he would have grabbed a mask or done something to that effect, but he seemingly just walked through it. And I'm sure Lil Murda they're not going to talk about it. He'll be on his way. So he'll affect other people. And it's just going to be this, chain effect because of that initial stop by.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Uncle Clifford made that phone call. She did something about it. She made that phone call right away. She knew where it came from, which is probably showing what, she must be, was it asymptomatic or something, where she doesn't have no issues from it. So she's not being affected. So she'll be able to care. Of course, now Murda's going to have it. He could have issues and underlying things going on as well. But, it's going to be some stuff going on now because of COVID. I think they have to write that into because a lot of people were affected by it. So I think something's going to happen from it because it's in the early stages of it, right? So I mean, back then. So I think, hopefully it's going to be tough.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch out for that one. Keep grandmother in your prayers because I need her to stick around.
I do too.
But somebody else that I was worried about this episode, Mississippi, she almost got away. I was like, dang, after all she went through last episode, and she finally mustered up the strength and the courage to get her and her babies up out of there just to have the car not work. I was torn. I was so upset.
Well,
so I'm thinking, like, is there going to be another opportunity? And we also seen her holding the gun where she was kind of like contemplating whether she was going to shoot Derek or not. So I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, but
Tiff said
My
that.
prediction.
Tiff said
I'm
that.
getting
prediction.
nervous because I'm getting nervous because I feel like in one episode there was already 2 attempts. Her getting in the car and then her pointing the gun. For me, early prediction with Keyshawn, it's going to be one of 2 things. Either it's going to be a big thing in the end and she is going to be able to kill him or take him out or something, or I hate to say it, or he
Don't say it. I know what
it's going to be one of the 2. I don't know. I'm thinking from a writing standpoint. They either, because the two failed attempts is very telling. So it's either because did it to lead to a big blowout to where like whether they duke it out or someone else helps her or she does a plan with they're either leading it up to a big takeout of Derek or they're leading it up to him killing her.
Well,
you know what?
It's gonna be the takeout.
I think she's gonna take him out too. But to piggyback on what you're saying, Katori Hall tweeted a fact, and I sent it to the team about domestic abuse, and she said that one of the facts is that just domestic abuse victims, a lot of times it takes them like at least 7 times to leave, and then like that final time when they do go back, that they usually end up being killed by their abuser. So she's been back.
We don't know how many times. If they killed her off,
I'm gonna be heartbroken.
I would be heartbroken too. So I really hope that Derek is the one that's not making it out of season 2.
Well, it's going to be that way. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm a man. I've never been in any domestic violence situations, right? But what's happened is they're showing it specifically, right, where she's standoffish now towards him, right? Whereas he's trying to embrace her, and she's like, she's not. The gun is under the pillow, right? So now I think she's going to have that gun around now. Well, I thought of you, Tiff, when you said it, right? When she got the gun out of the vent, I'm like, oh man, she about to take him out. But then I seen she was trying to run, and he already thought about that, so he made sure she wouldn't run, right? So now it's going to come where it's like he's going to get probably frustrated and understand that she's standing off now. He can't. He already offered her to get in the shower, while so they could get intimate. And once a woman, I've never been a woman before, but once a woman breaks the intimacy off, it's going to be a problem, right? And he's probably going to realize that because he's an aware man. He's very aware. So he's probably going to get more aggressive. Like, why are you even dealing with one of these people, these men that you're around, because you're eager to get back to them, and he's going to be aggressive again. And then I think that's when she's going to do something. I don't think
he was inviting her in a shower. I think he was inviting her to where he was going.
He did invite her.
He did invite her to
the shower.
Well,
no. He was leaving.
He was going to talk to somebody about a job, and he invited her, and she said no, and she pointed to her eye like, obviously I can't go.
Yeah, she pointed to her face I can't.
But what I hope is that somebody will bring her a 38 or 357 Magnum. But what that looked like is a 22. And if you don't use it properly, you're going to just injure him, and he'll go crazy.
No, she pointed in the right direction.
No, just because you point a gun doesn't mean you're going to hit your target. And the way she was holding it wasn't really to me like, you know exactly what you were doing.
I don't know. She could do it at close range.
But it's still a 22 and a very small
it's
caliber.
Like a little baby gun.
They're small caliber. You need something to take him down, period.
Right.
So
if it's to the dome, I think it will do the trick.
But Tiffany, you have to be believe it or not, at 10 feet, you have to be a pretty good shot to hit somebody in the head.
And
Even
her, the way
I
she
talked about, she
very-
has it under her pillow, man. I'm saying
look,
she
I
can
know.
give him a massage, have
too
him
scary
lie
though,
on her
Tiff.
All I'm
pillow.
saying is, I know someone that was shot with a 22 5 times
Ooh,
and was able to contact the police.
wow.
So you got to understand the caliber of the gun. So when I saw it, I said, that's a very small caliber gun, and he can get in a rage. And
Yeah.
if he were to get into that rage,
He wouldn't feel it.
unless you hit him in a vital area, he'll walk through it and kill
And
her.
I don't know about guns, but to Ron's point, not only the fact that the gun is kind of on the smaller scale, you also have to be more equipped. And her stance, her position,
Right.
she was trying to sit there and do it. Girl, you have to stand up and just be firm. She's not ready yet. So that she's not ready. And that's what had me scared.
She's not ready. This is why I think
I'm scared.
this is why I think Diamond is still going to play a prominent role here. Okay, we haven't even talked about the opening scene with him and Big Bone. We didn't talk about that. Okay, but I'm going to stick to my theory that Diamond is going to still play a pivotal role in whatever this triangulation is with Derek. I believe it.
You might be right, because he sure was. I did think about you, Sonya, because I was like, oh, he's being intimate with old girl, but he's thinking about Keyshawn. I was like, he still love her.
And you saw that weapon he had. You saw that weapon that Diamond had. Okay, that weapon will tear you apart. So he knows what to use.
But not only that, he still got those crystals and stuff on deck. What he did for Mercedes.
Exactly.
In the words of the great,
in
the words of the great Dave Chappelle, buckshot, kill shot. I think she will have to get a kill shot in on him to take him out, and I think that's going to happen.
Yeah,
I really hope so.
Yeah,
but are y'all starting to side eye Big Bone?
Oh yeah,
I am.
I've been side-eyed
her.
Okay.
Me too. Yeah. When she showed up that night, that was it for me. I'm like, okay, she's up to no good.
Yeah. But at least now we see why he got her pregnant in real life now.
hey, bring that up for you.
I thought that too. I was like,
I thought
fell in love.
Look, I thought I had a crush on Michelle, but
yeah, no, you like Farrah.
Farrah, yeah, Miss Farrah, but
yeah, Big Bone had it going on.
Hey.
It's a Big Bone.
Big Bone.
She Big Bone did. Yes.
Big Bone. She got a lot of bones.
She was eyeing that ring pretty hard, like she recognized it.
That's what I was thinking.
That ring isn't like some fancy diamond crusted ring that's gonna catch her eye. Why did it catch her eye so intensely? So I feel like she recognized
might know
it.
that ring. She might know that ring, and I think she had memory thinking like, why do he have that ring?
Right.
But he peeped it too, and that's why he said what he said. Like, it's about to get real testy. It's about to get real testy.
And Big Bone is incredibly forward with him. And I was like, I don't know if she has some other motives, because she really comes onto him very strong. So I do think that there's something there with that ring and with her knowing who it belongs to and whatnot. And before we get off of the topic of Keyshawn, I was just going to mention that she also called Murda up and told him about what happened with Rome and with Wody. So, it seems like Murda is kind of like side-eyeing Wody a little bit, like, how do you know he OD'd? Like, I know that he and Wody have like this close kind of relationship, and Wody did what he did out of protecting him. But the fact that so many people are now becoming aware of his secret, that's another thing he got to worry about.
I was going to say the situation with Wody. I think Wody was getting ready to tell Murda over the phone, but Murda's phone was going dead.
Mm-hmm.
When he said, I take care of things, like, because when he said, when Murda asked him how he knew he OD'd, and he said, I handle things. Mm-hmm. And I think he was getting ready to tell him about that footage. But when Murda's phone died, that was it. I think he was going to let him know. And who knows where the footage is? I don't even know if Wody has it.
Right.
And Wody did the right thing. I mean, taking him out was the right thing. I think that Murda would agree to that.
I also wonder if things would have flared up between Wody and Teak if Teak had stuck around, because Wody offered to take care of Teak too. And I was like, what that mean?
That's when I
Well,
thought.
I think he was just going to tell him I think he was going to
Yeah.
fire
He wasn't
him. I
going
think he was going to fire him. I don't think he was
Oh
going
no,
to kill him.
No,
Right.
but I thought
know.
that's when
He
I
wants
thought that there might be some confrontation between Wody and Teak, and somebody in that realm would catch a bullet, because we know Teak isn't going to take that line down, and nor would Lil Murda. What would Lil Murda have done if Wody had taken, the steps, the advance to go ahead and do it anyway without Lil Murda's consent? What would have happened? Would even Wody and Lil Murda got into a thing?
Yeah. So we got two more big things to touch on before we run out of time. So I want to get to them. First up, we're going to talk about Mercedes, because the Mercedes experience, they got her in trouble.
Correct. It's wrecked.
Did you see that? Did you see? Listen. Old boy got mad when he seen she made some noise. Like, how you know how to make her make them look? I don't know how to do that. So he knows the familiarity there, and that's the thing why you do not involve your spouse in those type of things, because this is what could happen. Remember, I told you about this, Tiff. And
Listen,
this is
I told y'all I thought Coach was getting kicked to the curb.
wow.
Yeah.
When I saw
Farrah then calls Mercedes to fumble her bag. So,
Well,
yes.
but I'm glad in a sense that Farrah did say to her husband, Coach, look, you, for the 19 years I believe they said they were married, you were never concerned with my needs or wants. It was always about you. Mm-hmm. And so, now she spoke up and said, okay, now I'm moving forward. It's more or less about me. But brother, when you let the devil in your home, expect anything. So, if you're gonna be in that realm and you're gonna play in that arena, then you have to be up for whatever happens. Your wife was overtaken by a beautiful woman. What can I say?
Well,
she said she been like women.
That's
yeah,
what she said.
I know. She said
that's been her thing.
Right.
That's that she's always been involved in. That's the thing about it. He didn't even know.
mm-hmm.
So when he probably was looking at women, she probably was looking too.
Yeah.
You don't want to introduce that into your marriage, because you never know.
But let me say this though. I think that it was up to her to let him know that at the point in time that they got together. I mean, you can't hide little secrets like that. I think it was, to me, it would have been, more responsible of her to say, hey, I'm bisexual or something to that effect, to let him know who he's dealing with, right, and whether he wants to deal with that or not. Right. So obviously that was hidden from him. And when he saw what he saw, he knew what he was looking at. So I think
it pissed me off though. I feel like he was talking at two sides of the end of his mouth, because I feel like when he called Mercedes, he said, my wife can't stop talking about you. My wife can't get enough. So you already know your wife was feeling it. So I don't know, maybe it's a writing thing. They just put it in there. I just thought it was weird, because he had that phone call. He's saying, oh, my wife couldn't get enough of you. And then it's happening and you're surprised that she's enjoying it. You just told her to come back one more time. Can you oblige my wife just one more time? You saying all this. Yeah. And because now they're in the intimate act. I'm sorry, y'all. I feel like it's a writing thing, and he jumped to conclusions. I mean, they're in the act. You want them to not be having fun. I mean, y'all are having a threesome. Right. They're into it. And then they're into it. Oh, I know what you. I know. Look, calm your. Sit down.
He felt that his wife was into the threesome. What he saw is, we don't need
intimacy.
What he saw was, we don't need you.
They were having fun without me.
Well, we're good by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's what got him. That phone call was like, okay, my wife is into this. This is a threesome. I'm going to have all, again, being single-minded, I'm going to have all the fun. Exactly. And you two are my tools for having the fun. Right. What he didn't realize is that tool he used is very antiquated, and they don't need that tool. So they were like, we can push that tool to the side. Right. We got what we need.
That goes to the point that Farrah was making about him being selfish. All these 19 years, it was only about what you wanted, what your likes, your dislikes, your dreams, your aspirations. So to your point, yeah, I can see that. You're right.
But
Yeah.
tap this into the. Oh, go ahead, Sonia. Before I move.
Well, I found it interesting when the married couple was having their tete-a-tete, and she was talking about how her dreams, not being realized. And Mercedes from nowhere says, "Yeah, what about her dreams?" And I was like, "Girl, if you done messed up your bag.
She messed up her bag when she started
messed
running
up
her
your
mouth.
bag." That really surprised me because I'm like, Mercedes,
Stay out of it.
stay out of it. That's
Out of
between
it.
them.
He snatched
Did that surprise anybody else?
Out of here.
Now, come on, ladies. Y'all know that was about the moment. She just got satisfied. So she feeling like in that
She overstepped. If she was worried about her bag, which she was already worried about her bag, she should have kept her mouth shut. And that was between, because in the beginning, he was just looking at Fair. He wasn't even really so much
addressing her.
Yeah, he wasn't really addressing Mercedes. He was more so like, hold on now, woman, how you know how to do all? He was questioning her, like, have you done this before? Like on that tip.
Mm-hmm.
Then he turned to Mercedes and said, "You turned my wife out."
That's what I was trying to.
That's why she should.
I think that was after she chimed in, though. I think that's after she chimed in was her backup choir. That's when he was like, you done turned. I don't know.
That's because Mercedes is really starting to feel it. Like Mercedes is starting to care for her.
No,
like
she turned his wife on. She was already ready for that homosexual relationship.
Right.
She just didn't realize how turned on she would be, and to discover that. But I think, and I'm hoping that it taught Mercedes a lesson. The next time you have a contract like that, have the money wired to your account.
She's gonna get the bag. She's gonna get the bag.
Well, we don't know. It depends on what coach
does. Walked out like an idiot. I don't know why she walked out and did not grab that cash.
He took it. He took it up. But my thing is, before we even get started, the money is wired to an account that you can't touch. So if such a thing blows off again, I got my money. Always protect the dollars.
Yes.
That's why it's going to come back, because now they're going to have their marital situation where they're going to do a lot of explaining. He's not going to want, because no man wants to see a man be with that woman. But of course, the good thing about it is, me being a man, she likes women, but after a while, he's going to feel some type of way because, she's touching her the right way. Did you see the way she was in that act? Ryan, I don't know if you were looking.
No, look, son, let me say this. Not only was I looking, I was actually taking.
Than she was with Coach.
I was
taking. That's
notes,
why he's mad.
But I was taking some copious notes. What was going on? so let me do say this. But a man with his, with his bravado, his. Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying. You're thinking that because it's a woman and not a man, he will submit to that at some point. But he's not that kind of man.
Nope.
He is extremely territorial. So it really doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. He wants to be able to control the narrative, no matter what it is. Yep. And the fact that he saw he lost control is what he was responding to.
Yes,
exactly.
And
could it be a twist? I'm sorry, Terry, bro.
No, go ahead, because I'm about to segue into something else.
Or could it be a twist where they be like, all right, this is both our girl then?
No. You
don't think so?
Not after his reaction. I think this is the last time we're gonna see Coach and Fair, at least for a long time. I don't think
Mercedes' experience is going for them.
But let me tell you,
doesn't play well with others.
If he was that kind of man, I would have like, can you show me how you did that?
It might be Mercedes and Fair from here on out.
Maybe
because they might not be done.
Because she got the bag too. She got the bag.
She has the bag too, right?
She got the bag too.
Mercedes was a little disappointed when she left, and I think, and if you remember, she really didn't want to get that involved with Fair. So I think that now that it's all blown up the way it has, it's a messy situation to come back to.
And this leads to my point, though, because think of the big picture of everything. All of that arrangement with Coach was so she could secure the money in order to get her business up and running, to be able to survive COVID and to ultimately get Terica back. Now, she went and confronted Shell this week about, what she said about Terica being a mistake and everything. Shell still really wasn't trying to give in to letting Mercedes get Terica back. And so what happens at the end, Terica comes crying to Mercedes with the pregnancy test. And we know that Shell is already on edge, barely able to cover Terica herself. Now, Terica and a baby, that's a whole nother story.
Right.
So
that's
now
major.
History
that
repeating
Mercedes
itself.
has fumbled her bag, she's gonna have to find a way to get that bag back. And it might be a situation where she deals with Farrah directly.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because she ultimately is still trying to get Terica back, and now she's going to want to support her grandchild too.
But
I think Farrah could pop up maybe later, maybe even next season. But we're at what, episode 6?
Yeah.
She could pop up. I'll give it some thought. She could pop up by the finale. But the way they what they did, what they symbolized with Farrah handing Mercedes her shoes back, kind of like, sorry, girl, it was that's the vibe. It was kind of like, I'm sorry this happened. You're on your
You're
own.
right about that.
Like that made me feel like it's. So she may pop up next season, possibly, but for right now, I think it's a wrap.
I think maybe they'll get a divorce and, she'll pop up at that point. But to your point, though, Tiara, I think now she doesn't need the money with the urgency, because I think now that her daughter's pregnant, Shell is just going to say, I can't handle this again. So here, you take your daughter, you take this baby, and y'all go do what you got to do. So I'm thinking that Shell would just say, she's got to go. You're going to have to take care of her.
Well, Mercedes is still going to need the money to keep her business afloat.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is part of that money was, hopefully to get herself up and be able to get her daughter
back. But
so I think that right now she has the opportunity with this child, and because I don't think Shell will want to go through this all over again with raising another child. So I think that opportunity to get her back now has been squandered.
I agree, Ron. I think it might get to the point where once Shell, whatever her name is, finds out about the news, she might go on a drinking binge. Who's to say she doesn't end up in rehab? Like, what if this news sets her over the edge, right? Mm-hmm. She's lost her. We already see the state that she's in. To find out now that the child that you've been raising, that you've done everything to try to put on the right path, is repeating that cycle and is pregnant, that might send her over the edge. So Shell could get to a point where she can no longer really take care of her.
But Shell also seems very vindictive too.
Mm-hmm. So, she is, and she's very territorial over the child. But I think this news might send her over the edge, and it might be the thing that does not give Mercedes custody, but will allow Mercedes to step in now and kind of be there more and allow, that's my theory.
Okay, that's a good one. Now, the last big topic that we got to touch on this recap, was about Andre and his campaign, because he has gone off and they're having this big masquerade ball to which Haley shows up and completely crashes the party. And she was kind of, throwing her weight around there. She was letting it be known that she has pull, especially after she befriended the lady Georgie. So, this lady was obviously married to one of the higher ups in that community. And so now that her husband has passed, she's kind of like taking the reins, and Andre is looking for this woman to endorse him. But Haley is also making friends with her on the side and basically securing the bag for herself. She's going to get a bigger deal than the $10 million that she was demanding. So,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, I just going to be stupid. Let me just say, I love chocolate, whether it's dark chocolate, white chocolate, and Haley is fine. So I can see the problem that Andre is having, because as I said before, Andre can't let her go. She just has a spell on Andre, and no matter what she does, she's always able to get back into the guise of Andre.
Tiffany says it all the time, the kryptonite.
Yeah, as much as I try to fight that, I can't. And
you know it.
Go. I know she's right, but I just don't want her to be right. But she's
right. Of course he doesn't.
Just think about it too, right? Now, not to be graphic and go back to his wife, when she was pleasuring the guy, it was just regular. It was just he was standing there. They were doing, and now her experience, she's been in the club, so she knows about them experience. She turned them out. Just even like, what do you want me to do?
Because
my need.
making him think he has power.
Exactly. And his wife doesn't give him that. She probably makes him feel, even when you're going to run for mayor, you can't do that. Like, she doesn't believe in him. This is a woman who comes from nothing and believes in him that he could be something. And
I don't think she comes from nothing though.
No,
she has accountant degree and stuff like that.
She's something, but meaning, like, you know, the theory of, they say, strippers in regards to that. I don't believe that at all. But just the fact that, you know, his wife is a doctor, right? And she cheated with a doctor. And then she sat here and told her husband, you can't be mayor. She don't think you can be mayor. Now, this woman, like, whatever you want me to, what do you want me to do? I want to give you that control. His wife doesn't make him feel, and everything is probably born with her bedroom.
His ego.
I don't want to compare the sex thing, because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Andre and his wife's situation is bigger than sex.
Yeah, it
is. It is.
The demise of their relationship, we saw it from last season, right? I don't know. I think what Haley did in this scene, I don't know. I don't know if she was horny. I don't know if it was just so much build up.
It's the mental control.
I took it as manipulation, because look, she just busted up in that man's place and took over the whole night. So listen, I think it's a little bit of everything.
Haley knew exactly what she was doing, and she knew exactly who to do it to. The one thing about Andre that I have to say, and this does come back to his marriage. Look, man, you have to sometimes sit down and say, how much did I contribute to her? And you have to be very honest with yourself and say, well, I cheated. And not only that, I pushed her away in a sense, because, you know, I really wasn't catering to her. Like, there were a lot of times, if you're truly about your wife, bring her along. You know, she could have been in the hotel while you had other things to do, or you bring her along. So, you know, you really have to sit down and ask yourself, and this happens to both men and women. A lot of times we look at that word cheating, and it becomes so dominant into what's going on in the relationship, and so negative. But we then have to sometimes ask ourselves, it's not all the time, but sometimes we have to ask ourselves, how much did I contribute to that? And if I contributed anything to it, then we need to sit down and talk about what the problems are in the relationship and try to get over them. He going back or allowing do whatever isn't supportive of his relationship or even him, because he knows that she's treacherous. So I don't know how you can even trust her to begin with. So, you know, I know, you know, men have needs, women have needs, everybody got needs, but sometimes you got to sit down and weigh your X's and O's and say, where am I in this thing? Go back to your wife, figure out what's wrong, work that out first.
But see, what you're saying is correct for someone who actually truly wants to salvage their marriage. I'm not getting that vibe from them. I'm just not. You know, I'm not either. You know, we haven't seen a scene yet since she did what she did with the doctor. So we don't know, but from what I'm gathering, I'm not getting that sense of trying to work it out. I really see the demise of a marriage in the end. I do too.
Yeah, because Andre was basically going with emotions in that marriage. You know, he cheated on his wife mentally and emotionally long before she ever cheated on him physically.
Right.
Allegedly.
And when you're married, well, how do you tell your spouse that you just staying in another city, another state?
But not just
she was like, when you coming home? Oh, I gotta stay here long. Like, nah.
No, but if you talk about last season, it was business. Like it was.
It was business. But at the same time, like after this season, after he died, he just like, I'm staying until the will comes. How about you go home, and once they, you know, the will is gonna be read and whatever, then you go back. Like, it's not okay for you to be staying somewhere indefinitely when you are married. If it's
and why can't she stay?
No. But
I mean, I know I'm just saying. It just didn't seem like he had no plans.
I hear you're saying
going home. He started thinking about running for mayor, and he knows she's a doctor in another state. Like,
the picture though, y'all missing the picture.
I think Tiffany is saying from even last season, it appears that Andre's moves, he never considers his wife.
Exactly.
A lot of the things that he did, he was not considering. Now I will give him a cookie. I'll give him half a cookie because when he came, he was saying, I was coming here to get permission from my wife to see if it would be okay if I run for said mayor. So I'll give him that he was willing to talk to her about it and get her opinion. But collectively, he was moving like he was a single man, low key.
He sure was.
Moving.
But y'all missing the bigger picture. She was asking because Doc was over there. She was asking because Doc was over there. That's why she was asking. When you coming home? Okay, Tuesday. Okay, Doc, you got to leave Monday morning. Come on now, y'all missing the picture now.
That was part of it, but
that was a huge part of it.
That's a part of it. I'll give you that. The only thing that they left ambiguous is that we don't know how long or how many times she and the doc have gotten it on.
I guarantee
one time or 5 times or,
I guarantee you this pandemic has taught us one thing, especially them being in the medical field. They spend so much time around each other. They were sleeping at the hospital. I'm sure them 2 doctors disappeared in that hallway somewhere prior to that happening. That's how it started out. I'm telling you, I worked in the hospital before. I didn't see it in
it happened.
And she already knew him. They already had history because that was the man that her family wanted her to be with.
Exactly. They go back to Jack and Jill days.
Yeah.
They do.
And the other thing I can say too is the way she was on her knees represented that she wasn't the first time she was there. She looked like she knew what she was doing. That's all I can say. She was check her knees. I bet her knees has some scars.
But listen, that's the whole thing. At home, wife was sitting on the bed stool, just giving this guy oral pleasure, and this woman is crawling up to you. Like as a man, that blows my mind. The thought of that, I'm like, hold up, I need you to do this.
She wasn't on a bed stool. She was on her knees in the bedroom. So, and as far as Haley is concerned, crawling, Haley understands one thing. I'll give you 10%, but I'm going to take 90 from you.
Exactly. She knows what she's doing.
So she knows exactly what she's doing. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's twofold. I think it was manipulative.
Exactly.
And I also think there is genuine like for each other. So they've been having sexual tension since last season. They have. So I think it was both. I think it was she wants to get some from him, and it was manipulative, for her advantage.
And they wanted each other since last season.
It's the illusion. She's going to get her money.
Mm-hmm. And I think about this as it relates to like the stripper world in general, because we see it a lot from Keyshawn and Mercedes and Haley. Like they're very manipulative and they're in tune with how to make somebody feed into the fantasy. They know how to give you what you want in order to get what they want. And then I compare that to Roulette and how we seen her this episode, because she's also very manipulative too, but she also sees how some of the other strippers, especially Whisper, who is her kind of like partner in crime, gets treated a little bit better, and how the dude Terrence was trying to basically please her, Whisper, versus having, Roulette was like, well, how come I didn't get that treatment? Why did I have to be the one to please you?
On my knees, right.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like, I think that weighs into their psyche a little bit, because Roulette, you could tell that she doesn't feel worthy, especially when the white boy was kind of like hitting on her. She felt like, I'm a hoe. Like, what do you see in me?
That's why she said, am I the prettiest one in the parking lot? When he said, no, the world. And that's to build her up, because she left out of the club because of what this light-skinned woman made it. I get to lay on my back. You give her $2,000 just to pleasure her.
Right.
That right there in itself. You paid me to pleasure you, but you're going to pay her to pleasure her. That does something to the psyche.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about that, because I can see how that could probably be true, and how that can affect somebody's self-esteem in that way, and how being in that environment, constantly being exposed to that, could turn you into a savage, to where you really are kind of like out for self only, and you'll do whatever it takes to get what you want.
Sonya, I see you writing, Sonya. What you think?
Listen, I'm just taking it all in. I'm thinking about Roulette. I'm thinking about Whisper. That whole scene was very telling. And, I saw it coming. I think y'all saw it coming too. Roulette is very competitive. And she's also very insecure. It's a very interesting kind of dichotomy. We got to see the sensitive side of her when she was talking about how her brother passed, and and then we saw that other scene where she was vulnerable with Big L, and Big L saw something in her. I think that's building up to something big. I'm not sure what it is yet, but I think Roulette is going to be one to watch, and it's going to be another explosive kind of situation that may end up with Whisper being a little hurt.
And I was getting nervous. Listen, I didn't know what Roulette was going to do with Whisper, because I was like, is she going to set her up? Is she going to let her know that the guy, they kind of left that open-ended. The guy asked her, he said, go, ask your girl if she'd be willing to. All we saw was Whisper, giving him a lap dance, but we don't know what happened. So I was getting nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope she doesn't set her up. I hope she doesn't get hurt in the process. So I don't know. They left it open-ended. I don't know if it can happen next episode or later this season.
But let me add a footnote to that too. I also saw the glance that Whisper gave Roulette when Roulette did that amazing trick on the pole when she took her shoes off. I saw the little jelly, there too. So I think their storyline is going to be really, really interesting.
Especially with the fact that they are doing things on the side without Uncle Clifford's permission.
Yeah,
and using this kind of the Pink as Pink's likeness and whatnot. Yeah, he seemed a little salty about that.
Yeah,
I think Whisper more so admires Roulette. I think Roulette is the jealous, competitive personality, but I think Whisper, when she looks at her, it's more of like okay, I see you. That's what I get.
Right.
It's more
Me too.
She admires her. Okay, I see you, girl. You do your thing.
I felt like that before. I felt like that before, but then in this episode, I saw something different in Whisper. It was a little different. I think she does have that admiration for her, but it was a little different glaze this time.
My only thing with the Roulette is that she looks to be the type that can become unhinged at any moment. And that is just a concern for me. She, so
female Teak.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so I very good show. I loved it. All the aspects.
We're definitely running a little long in our conversation.
Yeah,
so we should wrap it up soon. But I think this episode had a lot to talk about.
It was a good episode.
A lot of content.
Yes.
It was a good episode. Last week with Mississippi, that was my favorite to date. But this one was really good.
Can we just say, this season, I don't know about you guys, I am in awe of how well the season is.
Me too.
The progression of the show. Oh my gosh. I mean, the writing, the acting, the storytelling, the topics, the real life topics that they're touching on. I mean, every week I almost feel like I'm watching a different show in a good way. It's just, I don't know, man, they've really evolved from season one, and I'm really proud because not a lot of shows have that impact, from season 1 to season 2. And I'm just really proud of them. It speaks to the writing, everything. It's just, I'm enjoying season 2 more than
I agree with you.
Agree.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because,
I don't think I was expecting it to be this. I don't think I was expecting. Season 1 was great.
It was.
But where they have taken it this season is, wow, just I'm great.
And the character development too. The character development. It's been some outstanding performances and stuff from all of them. And like I said, I really enjoyed Shannon Thornton last weekend as Mississippi, learning about her story. She put it down, and just seeing the development even this week with Lil Murda and Teak and all of that.
I mean, all of them. Really, the top 3, I think, was Mississippi, Murda, and Teak. Those 3 actors, I think we got to see their range, their true range. And I just found out that the actor that plays Teak, he was acting on this TV series that was kind of like I want to say, dare I say, like a musical type thing where he's dancing and singing, and you would have never thought that he would come from that role to this hardcore. I mean, it's night and day. He was basically doing theatrical Broadway dancing, singing on this television show. I forget the name of it. And to see the range in him is wow.
So
Top
yeah,
notch.
definitely kudos to everybody involved in the show. I think we all are in agreement on how well season 2 is going so far.
Mhm.
And to all of our viewers out there, please make sure that you drop down in the comments, let us know what you think about this season as well. And this most recent episode, give us your comments and your thoughts on how you like this episode. And I know Tiffany, you might have had something you wanted to add before we close
Oh
out.
yeah, yes. Little housekeeping. I just want to thank you all for watching us and being patient with us. I know it was a couple comments were over talking and things. Sometimes we're passionate, but last week we had some technical difficulties, and that was really the tea behind that, and it made it difficult for us sometimes to hear when other people concluded and stuff. So just please be patient, give us a little grace, and we aim to give you guys a good show every week. So thank you for just watching and being patient with us.
I got one more thing to say too. As Tiffany said, we do our best to bring a very good professional show. And, there's some people that don't like what we do. And that's okay. And if you don't like what we do, there's a cure for that. Don't watch. Because we're
Watch
good.
this.
Like
watch it.
We do have over
we
have over 500,000 viewers that like our show. So if you just want to throw a comment up just to be negative, save your breath and your time, your fingers. Don't do it. Just watch something else, and we're good.
And on that note, make sure you guys follow all of our social media platforms. We are at The Spot Real Talk on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all the major platforms. Subscribe to our channel. And like Ron said, save the negativity if that's what you bring in. But for everybody who, continues to support us and to join us, like our 3 amazing guests we had today, and all of the guests that we bring on, we appreciate you. We love you. And we pray that you continue to support us. So on that note, I think we'll call it a night. Make sure you are back next week, same time, same place, when we come back to discuss the next episode of P-Valley. So you guys have a good night, and thanks again.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for having me.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Enough of the code switching, been hitting my soul, been on the ropes, I'm ready to grow, so get to know me. Keep your head up, I want you to grow with me. See this gold on me, want you to glow with me. Yeah, alright, okay, we get it. No contest. Wait, see it's gold on me. Surf's up, nigga. The world been dying, days is numbered, check the climate, I'm sick of it. They had brain scheme to get the riches quick. I played a long game with serene scene and the whip that's quick. From the back room to the hearts, I'm in the thick of it.